How's it going, riders? I'm GhostRyder. Today we will be changing the oil to my 2015 Harley Davidson Street Light Special. We will be doing the engine, transmission, and the primary. Okay, so this is the 2015 Street Light Special we will be doing the oil change on. Today we will be using the KN 178B, B for black, C for chrome, whichever you prefer, and the Mobile One V-Twin 2050. Now, the 3 holes require, one's right here. That's for one of them to drain the primary, and the oil, it's right over there. That net that's sticking out. And for the transmission, it's right over here. So I'm gonna start with this one, loosen it up. Then once that's loose and it's leaking oil, I will be unscrewing that. Now, when it's leaking or when it's draining, this thing for you to do is you loosen this. This is for the engine oil, and you loosen this for the transmission. Just pretty much just so, you know, you get air, pretty much easier airflow. You'll see it as you go. For all the drain plugs, it requires 16 millimeters. Still can't see it. Anyway, all 3 drain plugs are about, use a 16 millimeter to unscrew it and screw it back in, obviously. So I'm gonna start with the oil, the engine oil. Then when that's leaking, the transmission. Okay, so I have taken the plugs off the transmission and the engine oil. Now you see how it's leaking. As soon as I loosen this for the engine oil and this for the transmission, it'll be more of you'll see the difference. It'll pretty much leak more. Once that's empty, then I put the plugs back and they go to the primary. But we'll start with this. So right now I'm gonna go take that off, loosen that. You don't have to take it out, just loosen it. Pretty much let air flow through. For the transmission, it's actually, I'm using the 3/8. Where are you? There you are. I'm using 3/8 to fit through here to loosen it. All right, so I've already loosened this, and you are getting better flow from the oil in the transmission. Which the transmission is actually still pretty clean. They say the transmission and primary is about 10,000 and the main oil is 5,000, depending on what you use. But you know what? I figured we're down here, might as well do all of them. All right, now that the oil in the transmissions, you know, I'm draining, next thing I'm gonna do is the primary, which is that one right there. Then once I'm draining this, I'm gonna be unscrewing those. Also, just a heads up, when you're doing the transmission, I had to use this extension to get up in there because it's not gonna really reach. So, you know, you'll see what I'm talking about once you started. But both drain plugs for the oil and the transmission is draining, and now it's time for the primary, and I'm gonna start that right now. Okay, so that is now draining, and I'm gonna be unscrewing this. So once you take the last one out, it's gonna fall right off. And to loosen it, make sure you do it in start order, okay? So I'm gonna do that right now, and I'm gonna place it down. Okay guys, so here's an example. All the screws are out, and once I let go, it just falls out. And there you go. And that's where you pour the oil in once that time has come. And now it's pouring even better because now there's airflow. I just want to show you guys these are the drain plugs for all three of them. They're all pretty much exactly the same. Like I said, I believe I said 16 millimeters. Right here on top is a magnet. So that magnet pretty much catches any metal or something that's in your engine, transmission, or whatever, you know. So every time you take it off, there's little gunk here and there. I just clean it off. As far as the rubber bushings, I bought this pack from Amazon. It has a shitload, you know, and you know, I change it as they need it, you know. Some people change it per oil change, but these look okay. And I'm planning on having my bike for a long time, so just keep an eye in it every time you do your oil change. If it needs to be changed, just change it. But I just changed this 5,000 miles ago and they still look good, so I might do it another 5,000 and go from there. Okay, so now that all the oil looks like it's drained, I'm going to be putting the drain plugs back together. Then after that, my next step would be the oil filter. Try not to forget the oil filter. I'll be honest, I have forgotten the oil filter until like I got to this part and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot the oil filter. So my torque specs that I put on this is about 19 foot-pounds. I believe the specs are 17 to 21. I just put 19, just meet in the middle, and you should be good. Make sure you torque your stuff. Last thing you need is to over tightening it or under tightening it or over tightening it and breaking it. You don't want to do that. Don't make such a small thing be a big problem. Okay, so I'm gonna put them back now, put the drain plugs back, and I'm gonna get on that. This torque wrench I got at Harbor Freight, pretty cheap, you know, 19 foot-pounds. You know, it's pretty simple. This is just a little cheap one, but you know, I've used it for years and it works. So if you don't have a torque wrench, just go to Harbor Freight, just buy a cheap one, just something that'll do the job for now. And I believe this only cost me like under 20 bucks and it's lasted me years. Okay, now that everything's tight, torqued to 19 foot-pounds. Everything's torqued. Next thing is that. Do not forget that. You know, I will recommend using the K&N oil filter for your filters, because when you have to loosen it, all you have to do is put a damn screw in and loosen that shit. It makes life so much easier. Okay, I'm gonna take the shot off now. All right, the filter's out. It's still leaking a little bit. You know, you make sure you have that carbon right there when it, you know, when it goes down, because I didn't put that in there. So I got that and that. There's the filter. It's still leaking a little bit, but now I want to put the old filter, the new filter in. Here's the new filter, or the old filter, I'm sorry. You know, I just let that shit drain out. And I'm about to put the new filter in. And when you put the new filter in, when you put it in there, make sure you clean that up before you put it in there. You just twist it till it stops. Don't over tighten it. Make sure it's not loose, but make sure it's not super tight either, just snug. I'll show you the finished product. Another thing I like about this is once you take it out of the box, it's already a little lubed up in there. So you just gotta pretty much like screw it in by hand. By the way, I hope you guys know when you guys are putting the drain plugs and everything back in, do everything by hand first. Then use the whatever you guys are using to tighten it or loosen it. Just make sure you're starting by hand, just like this. Just do everything by hand on this one. And this already has it. It goes right in there after I clean that shit. And we are good to go to add the oil. All right, there you go. Nice and brand new, fresh off the boat. And now we add the oil. But now with this part right here, I have a little tool that I use. You pretty much put it in there and you pour the oil. Nice and simple. All right, Ryder, so the first thing I'm going to be doing right now, because it's open and I don't want it left open, is the derby cover. Now, the specs on the derby cover oil is about 38 ounces of oil on this one. So I'm going to add 38 ounces. Then I'm going to put the derby cover back along with the specs, and I'll get to that right when I get there. Now that's done. To put this back, if you want to put it back in the right order, just, you know, make sure the HD's on top when you put it in right. It should line up. Do everything by hand first, then use a torque wrench to tighten it. Also, it doesn't hurt to clean this thing. And that rubber bushing, the orange rubber bushing, just be careful. Make sure that when you're putting it on there, you don't pinch it. It's lined up just right with all those grooves. Then, once again, put the screw on in a start order. Okay, the derby cover is in by hand. I pretty much did this by hand. Now we're going to torque it at 100 inch-pounds, okay? Remember, not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. Again, you could get this torque wrench from Harbor Freight, less than 20 bucks. I've used it for years, and it's worth it. Okay, everything's torqued. Remember, start pattern. I started here, 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 and here. Everything's torqued to 100 inch-pounds. Okay, next thing is, we'll start with the transmission. Now the transmission will take about 28 ounces of oil. So I have one of these. It's, you know, nice and thin. You know, you take this off, and there's actually the dipstick for the transmission. Just put it out, and you start with that. It goes in there, and I already have 28 ounces in here, and I just poured the whole thing in there. Okay, guys, so I've already filled this up with the oil with that. So I put about 28 ounces of fluid in there. Now, they say that you're supposed to put, like, transmission oil on transmission and, you know, yada yada. But I've been putting Mobil 1 oil on here, motorcycle oil, twin cam, for years now, and I've had no issues. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and clean this thing up. Then you're going to torque this after it's in. You're going to torque this at 50 inch-pounds. Remember, torque specs are very important. Don't get lazy and just do it. It's worth it. Before I put it in, I just want you to know there is indicators whether it's full or fill, okay? Now, with me, I already know. Let me get focus. Damn you. Anyway, I already know that this takes 28 ounces of oil, so I just go ahead and do the 28 ounces. Same thing with engine oil. Engine oil on this thing takes 3.5 quarts. I've known that because I've already done my measurements, and this too has, you know, has indicators whether you need to fill or not fill. So it actually tells you, sorry guys, it actually tells you fill on a stand or fill on the riser. So I already know that this bike takes about 3.5 quarts of oil. So just to let you guys know, and make sure you clean this stuff too before you put it back in after the fresh oil is in. Okay guys, so I've already torqued this. Now, 50 inch-pounds did seem a little light, so I did go a little tighter, maybe up to 70, just to be safe, but you know, I don't know, that's on me. So next step is to put oil right here. Like I said, this is a 2015 Street Glide Special 103. And this takes 3.5 quarts of oil. I've already done my measuring. Like I said, if you guys want to measure, the specs are right there. You know, the guide's right there. But I already know this is 3.5 quarts. So I'm going to add the 3.5 quarts and we'll go from there. Next step. Okay, so everything's done. 3.5 quarts on the engine, 28 ounces on the transmission, 36 ounces on the derby cover. So that is the oil change for my 2015 Harley Davidson Street Glide Special. Okay, riders, so that is a 3-hole oil change on the 2015 Street Glide Special. Now, if you have any questions, just post a comment. I'm trying to make these videos, pretty simple and better. I know I haven't been around in a while, but I'm trying to come back. Life happens. I was kind of, I guess you could say I was away for a couple of years, but I'm going to try to keep this up. I'm probably going to redo the old videos I redid, like the sports store needs an oil change, so I'll be posting that one. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, just hit me up. Please subscribe and post and let me know if there's any improvements. But you know what? This is pretty much for guys like you and me who doesn't want to go to a dealership. We just want to be able to save some money and do this on our own, because it's pretty simple and easy. And I learn as we go. But I gotta make sure that I know what I'm doing before I even do this. One more thing, guys. Now with all my specs, as far as how much oil goes in what oil hole, please double check it just to make sure. These are specs for my bike for 2015 Street Glide Special. Those are my specs that I've pretty much done all the measurements and everything. So if you can, just double check it and make sure. Follow my specs, but when it's done, make sure you start the bike for at least 45 seconds, turn it off, and check the oil a couple of times just to make sure it's good. Because I'm pretty sure it's the same, but you know what? Just be safe. It's better being safe than sorry. Torque specs are real important, and I always recommend them. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass having to do it, but you know what? It only takes like a couple of seconds. All right, just do it. You want it done right, and let's just get this done right. So please double check your specs. This is what I've been doing for years on my bike, so it works with me. As far as oil, I've heard people say that there's different oil for the transmission, and with me, I've always used the same oil. I've always used Mobil 1 twin cam. I believe it's 2050. The same oil filter. I've never done like different oil on the transmission. I've always used the same for years, and it's worked fine. So I'm probably gonna stick to it. Maybe one day I'll get different oil for the transmission if I just happen to be there and I happen to see it. But like I said, please double check your shit, and you guys ride safe, all right?